guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new IDontWorkHereLady content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled "Helped More People Than the Employees. Sorry, no Karens involved." A couple months ago I went shopping at a local restaurant supply type store, kind of like a small Costco, Sam's Club. I was picking up some food for a work-related event and was wearing our Get Dirty uniform, which is green work jeans and a gray t-shirt with the company logo. This business does not have official uniforms, but employees wear a blue vest with a name tag. Pretty informal. I was looking at a couple of items when a lady called to me to ask if I could get something off of high shelf. I'm 6'3", so this is a common occurrence even when people know I'm not an employee, and I'm always happy to help when someone is polite. She was super nice and thanked me. I hadn't taken 2 steps when another customer called to me and asked if I could help her find some items. I wasn't in a hurry, and I'm familiar with the store, so I said sure. As I went back to my shopping, an elderly lady near the meat case was watching me. She asked me where she could find some meat item, can't remember what it was. I helped her pick out a nice one and she then proceeded to hand me her grocery list and asked if I could help her with the rest of her shopping. Of course I said yes, and 45 minutes later I helped her push her cart to the front to check out. It was when she looked at the cashier with the vest on, then back at me, that her eyes went wide with the realization I wasn't an employee. We had a good laugh about it, and I went back to start my shopping. Anyway, that's my happy story of spending an hour helping 3 other people, with all of them being nice, before getting to my own shopping. Gotta say, I had a smile on my face the rest of the day. The next story is titled "No Longer Work There." I had worked security for a large West Coast, high-end, department store in the late 1970s. I started looking for another job when I realized the security manager was not very good at her job and also kept taking my ideas up to corporate security and taking the credit. I finally found my dream job during college, working for a private investigator. I stopped by the store to visit with some people I used to work with and do a little Christmas shopping. While I am there, I stop in to briefly talk with the security manager. She mentions that they have been having a real problem in the electronics section with a massive amount of stock disappearing regularly. The stockroom was new for electronics and had not been there when I worked there. She says they have changed the lock and limited the people who have access to the key. Just for kicks I go to electronics to look around. 5 minutes later I go back to get her. I tell her where to place a temporary camera to catch the thieves. In my 5 minutes, I find out that to create the stockroom, they put in a new wall and door, but only on the front. The back of the stockroom had been a passageway before the remodel and they had just nailed plywood over the passageway and painted it to match the wall. The plywood was loose. The thieves had been stealing the stock through this easily recognizable security shortcoming. I am sure she took credit for solving the thefts. The next story is titled "I Don't Work Here, I'm a Patient." This happened a few days ago. 26F, I'm 11 weeks pregnant with my second child. I work at an optical center as a technician, and our uniform is plain scrubs that can be any color but no pattern. On this day, I had just returned to work after having to quarantine due to having COVID. I started my shift at 9 a.m. I seemed fine and was so glad to be back at work. About an hour and a half into my shift, I was with one of our patients doing an eye test called an optos. While standing at the machine, I started to feel unwell. It started with sudden, severe nausea, which quickly was accompanied by a dizzy feeling. Then my eyesight started to go black at the edges. I've had vertigo my entire life, so I attributed this to a normal vertigo episode that would be done in a few seconds. However, when I didn't start to feel better after a few seconds, I knew something was wrong. I left the patient I was with and went out into the hall. I called for my supervisor, who was also with a patient. When she came out and asked what was wrong, I got as far as "I don't feel too good" before everything went black and I woke up on the floor with our eye doctor leaning over me, telling someone to call 911. At the hospital, they could not find any reason as to why I fainted, and only gave "you're pregnant" as a possible cause. When I was told I could go home, I started getting dressed and went out into the waiting room to wait for my fiancé to pick me up. At this point, I was wearing my maroon scrubs. In the 30 minutes it took my fiancé to leave work to come get me, He didn't know what happened until I was able to call him. I had several people come up to me asking how long they had to wait to be seen. After telling so many people I didn't work there, some more than once, I unintentionally yelled at this old lady who rudely asked me why I was sitting around instead of working on getting her an room. Listen, idiot, I do not work here. I am a patient. Just because I am wearing scrubs doesn't mean I work at the hospital. Leave me the heck alone. Please. At this point I was almost in hysterical tears because I didn't feel good and just wanted to go home and lay down. Now I feel bad for yelling at the woman, but surely she should have heard me telling other people I didn't work there. The next story is titled I Blocked Someone In Who Parked in My Driveway, Then Getting Drunk and Unable to Move My Car. Last Saturday I was hosting a Halloween party, starting at 6 p.m. and going late into the night. Before the party, I took a drive out to the store to get some last-minute supplies. I live in an apartment and I have a private driveway. My street is a busy one, with crowded parallel parking along the sides. It's also always crammed when the nearby school has some event. A few times people have parked in my private driveway even though it's obviously marked as private. I come back to my place and there's a big minivan parked in my driveway. I'm annoyed but I drive up and down the street looking for another place to park. There's nothing, and I end up going to my place again and parking in the driveway behind the minivan. It's a longish narrow driveway and I knew I'd have to move my car to let them out. My friends started coming over to party and the car owner still wasn't back. It had been like half an hour. My friends want to do shots and I'm not sure if I should. I won't drive after I've been drinking and I might need to move my car. But after some convincing from my friends, I decide duck it. I'm not letting some random a-hole keep me from enjoying my own party. In a couple hours I'd forgotten all about the car. I was having a hell of a fun time at my party. My friends and I were all pretty hammered and were ordering some pizzas. Someone knocked on the door and we assumed it was the pizza guy. My friend got the door and it turned out to be a big family group. They were saying they were boxed in and asking if the car owner lived there. I came to the door and I was like, yeah, it's my car, but I'm crap-faced man, I can't move it now. Come back tomorrow, yeah? And the dad was saying something about how they needed the car to get home. They just stopped off for a bit. It was an emergency. They were running the school's homecoming and needed a quick spot to park, and they'd left a note and everything. I went, nothing you say is gonna make me drive drunk, man, come back tomorrow. His wife asked how they were supposed to get home, and I said to call a taxi. She said their family was too big, and I said call 2 taxis. She asked if she could move my car and I said no, I won't let strangers drive it. She asked if anyone else could and I said no, we're all hammered. I ended up just slamming the door because I didn't want to spend the night dealing with that. They were gone when the pizza guy showed up. The next day, I slept until 3 p.m. because I'd been up mad late the night before. Plus being hungover. I found a note on my door that the family had been by to get their car and I wasn't answering my door and they have their phone number to call them when the car was moved. They threatened to call the police if I didn't work with them. Sounded really mad. I texted the number saying I was moving my car, and then I left my house for my boyfriend's house for the night. Didn't really want another run-in because they seemed mad, plus I wanted to see my boyfriend anyway. The next story is titled I Would Prefer Not To. So I'm at Barnes & Noble waiting for my girlfriend to get off work and I'm sitting in the cafe reading Mary Poppins when a lady comes up to me asking if I could help her find books by P.L. Travers. I get why she asked me, but I've had a bad day and don't want to deal with people, so without even looking at her I just say I would prefer not to, which annoys her. She starts going off about how she's going to get my manager and tell them I'm ruining products and refusing to help customers. So, I tell her it's my personal copy, also the cover doesn't match the newer editions, and ignore her. She continues to get pissed and a manager comes by to see what's going on. She gives the whole spiel to the manager and demands he fire me, to which he gloriously replies, I would prefer not to. The woman huffed off quick after that, looking like we just shot her dog. The next story is titled Fellow Immigrant Mistakes a Nurse for a Supermarket Employee and Gets Really Confused. This isn't a mean Karen of Kevin's story, sorry to disappoint. But I did find it a bit funny. Backstory. I live in New Zealand, but I'm from the USA, and I used to work in a few supermarkets here in NZ before I completed my training and started working in healthcare. I was leaving work a little late, and I ducked into the supermarket to pick up something on behalf of my mill. I was speaking with her on the phone to clarify her preference for the item when I noticed a young man with his friends patiently standing next to me looking like he wanted to ask me something. I'd heard him speaking with his friends and so I knew he was a tourist from either Canada or the USA. I assumed he heard my accent and was waiting to ask me about where to find something, or a Kiwi substitution for an American item. We immigrants gotta help each other. When I got off the phone he politely asked me where he could find maraschino cherries. Which I actually did know isn't carried by this or any local supermarket. So I advised, no, but there would probably be some other options available. He seemed confused by my answer, so I offered to help. I took him to another aisle and showed him the candied cherries. Nice guy. I just dunno if they'll work with the cocktails I have planned for tonight. Me. Oh, sure. That's a bit tricky, there's some preserved cherries over here, but for something like that, I really don't know. But we can ask the liquor section, the guys there might have something. I led him to the liquor section, noticing he looked more and more confused by the second. I was wondering why he looked so confused. He looked even more confused watching me interact with the liquor section manager that we happened upon. When I came back, and I let him know the only cherry options in this store were the ones I'd shown him, and that there was an international grocery nearby I could give him directions to, he looked very confused. And then it dawned on me. My nurse's uniform was black with lime green piping. Guess what the logo and uniform colors of this supermarket are? I laughed and said because I don't work here. Gasp, really? Me. Yeah, I'm a nurse, pointing to the healthcare logo on my top. Oh, no way. OMG, I'm so sorry, why didn't you say so? Me. I didn't realize you thought I worked here, I just thought you heard my accent and figured I'd know where to find American stuff, and I always try to help. Jokingly, saving lives by day and cocktail parties by night, huh? Me. Laughing, at your service. We shook hands and wished each other well, and that's the end. Not a social justice story or anything, but I still think about it and it's been 5 years, hope you all enjoyed. The next story is titled Wrong Number. I was the manager of a computer store and the phone number was 1 digit different from the local Kohler distributor. We constantly got calls from people trying to reach Kohler. Many people realized their error when they heard the operator answer with our store's name. There were plenty of people who didn't listen carefully and would ask for customer service and would get transferred. Somehow a very angry plumber got transferred to the tech department. Being the gentleman there, the tech department lampooned him for about 30 minutes. The guy got absolutely furious and demanded to speak with the Kohler manager. This is when my phone rings. After giving my name and asking how I could help, Mr. Irate Plumber unloaded on me for several minutes. I was confused at first, then I began to understand what had happened. It was hard not to laugh in his ear, but I was polite and let him vent his anger. Finally, he asks, "So are you going to tell me how to get this GD POS Kohler to flush properly?" In a very kind voice, I assured him I would do whatever it would take to make it right. Then I asked him, first things first, did you try holding down the power button to restart it? In a soft and puzzled voice, he asked, do these new toilets have a power button? To that, I replied, how the hell would I know? This is a computer store. As he was slamming the phone down, all I could hear was son of a idiot. To this day, I sometimes remember that call and wonder to myself, did he ever get that toilet to flush right? The next story is titled I Need a Translator. I'm a shift manager for a retail drugstore chain. We offer a variety of services. One is a wire transfer of money. So one night I have a customer, who we'll call Jane, who can only speak Spanish. She brought a friend along, but something happens where they get into an argument and the friend leaves. I barely know any Spanish. Took it in high school and failed. Jane is now irate that I can't help her. I get my phone and turn on Google Translate, but it doesn't work. Apparently Jane is illiterate. Just to clear the air. I hold no resentment against people who can't speak English in the US. Unless you know all the details about someone, you have no right to judge. Both my parents are Chinese immigrants and came to the US in their 30s barely speaking a word of English. Although they learned, they never truly mastered it. Quite often as a kid I had to translate or clear up what someone was saying. Jane starts yelling at every customer who passes asking if they speak Spanish. Most customers just run away, probably because of her attitude. Finally a customer, who we'll call John, gets flagged down and offers help. John asks Jane to please speak slowly and calm down. John tells me that he's a high school Spanish teacher. He teaches formal terms and Jane is using a lot of Colombian slang terms. John helps Jane finish her paperwork and translates as I'm walking her through the paying process. After Jane leaves, I thank John profusely, telling him he's a lifesaver. John says no thank you. This was at the beginning of the COVID lockdowns. John explains that ever since the lockdown happened he hasn't had a chance to practice his Spanish, so this was a perfect opportunity. Anyone who speaks multiple languages knows that if you don't use it, you lose it. I give John a discount and a store gift card. John tells me that he gave Jane his number so he can help her learn English and hopes that she'll take his offer. The next story is titled Be Aware of What Is Attached to Your Person. I just read through a bunch of stories, so I thought I'd share a couple. Nothing crazy, no Karens, but funny to me. Back in the late 90s, I worked for a healthcare company in Atlanta. Our dress code was button down, button up, shirt, slacks and leather shoes. One lunch break, I ran into a Kroger to grab some lunch. I got distracted in the freezer section and I kept hearing someone say excuse me. I turned around and it's a little old lady talking to me. I said hi and then she asked me to retrieve something from on top of the freezers. I politely told her I didn't work here. Then she asked me why I was wearing a badge. I look at my shirt and realize I'm wearing a blue badge which looks very similar to the blue Kroger badges. I helped her out by finding an actual Kroger employee. Fast forward to 2018 and I'm doing the weekend dad fix crap in my house. I run to Home Depot to quickly grab something I needed. I'm in the irrigation section and I hear the voice excuse me. I turn around and it's a lady asking me to help her cut some PVC pipe. I tell her that I don't work here and she says, why do you have a measuring tape attached to your belt? Well, I had been measuring crap all day at home and I guess I forgot to take it off. I helped her find a real employee. We laughed about that one. The next story is titled She Actually Praised Me at My Store. I worked at department store in the mid-90s. We had to wear a red vest. This is relevant later. On my way home after work one day, I remembered that I forgot to pick up a few things. I stopped at a different department store. It was winter and I did not feel like taking my coat off to take my vest off, so I just zipped up my coat and went in. I was doing some shopping when a lady approached me and asked where something was. I said I don't work here and she pointed to my belly. I looked down and part of my vest was showing. I unzipped my coat and showed her what company I worked for. She was embarrassed, smiled, and asked if I could help her. I was tired from working and said, fine, and took her to what she wanted. She thanked me, took my name, and said she would let my manager know next time she was at my store. I wrote it off as her just backpedaling as her way to end her embarrassment. Fast forward 2 weeks. My manager approached me and asked if help someone at X. I told her what happened and my manager was as shocked as I was and thanked me for stealing a customer from the competition. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comments.